paying when you buy an existing business is the right price, is the fair price. And then it's also important to do a proper research and make sure that the information that the seller of the business is giving to you is the correct information. Sometimes you may be told things like there's so much inventory, or we do so much revenue, or we have so much this, or maybe the business has contracts or very strong customer base or something like that. And then once you get in there and you own the business, you find out that maybe you weren't told everything exactly correctly, that there was some overstatements. So it's important to make sure and to double check on that. And maybe sometimes the business brokers or other people can audit and look at the business and see that what they're being told is correct. Mm-hmm. But if you do buy a business and you pay a fair price and the business turns out to be exactly what it said, often that actually is really a better way to go than trying to start the business up from scratch.
Just like to know whether you have a class for that.
Buying a business, we do.
Yeah,
Actually, we have secrets of buying a business and franchise, because franchise is kind of a hybrid between starting a business and buying a business.
Okay.
You're starting a business, but you have the model for the business in a franchise.
Okay.
So,
and how many years of track record would you like to see?
well, we're looking usually, we want to go back as far as we can, typically 3 years. 3 years is what we're looking for. When we make a loan to an existing business, we ask for 3 years of financial statements, 3 years of income tax returns.
Okay. As far as the going back to minority, because Indonesian are considered minority.
Yes.
The benefit is you talk about the contract with the federal government.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that with
that's
the state
under the
too?
8A program. Well, the state contracting is a little bit different. Each state operates their contracting and their supplier diversity programs a little bit differently. However, that said, states also receive a lot of federal money, and the federal requirements on the federal money pass down. So an organization like Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, a lot of contract opportunities in Caltrans. The state of California does have small business set-asides, but they don't have minority. So that's a state regulation, but the federal regulation does have minority. So in the case of Caltrans, they're going to be working to fulfill their federal minority business requirements. These minority business requirements are strong, and businesses that get into the 8A program that are qualified contractors really have a big opportunity, because the 8A program gives them an ability to compete only among 8A contractors on federal contracts.
And AA stand for?
It's 8A,
8A,
and it's the
okay.
legislation that defines the Small Business Administration's Minority Contract Business Development Program.
And you don't need to take an SBA loan?
No.
Okay.
No, you need to still apply to become an 8A contractor. And there's an application process. Typically, you have to be in business for 2 years, and you have to show that you can be a qualified contractor. Because the way 8A works is that we need to make sure that those companies can really do the contracts, or they have the potential to do the contracts. So businesses that don't have a strong enough capacity to deliver on the contracts, whether it's technical capacity or financial capacity, we want to work with them to help build them up before we let them come into the 8A program. Once they're in the 8A program, the presumption is that they're ready to go to do federal contracts. And then it's a matter of connecting them to the federal agencies, teaching them how to do the bidding and the costing for federal contracting, teaching them the ins and outs of the federal contract process so that they can be successful at federal contracting. But the 8A status itself gives them some significant advantages when they're competing on federal contracts. Because overall, all federal contracts have to be competed. But in the 8A program, if you're a 8A business, the federal agencies can actually set aside some of their contracts for only 8A contractors, so only minority contractors. And then that means that as an 8A contractor, if you compete on the contract, and sometimes you can actually get it under a sole source, but if you actually compete, you only compete amongst 8A contractors. You don't compete with the majority firms. So that's a huge advantage. When you think that in all of Northern California, with the thousands of businesses that we have here in Northern California, there are only 300 8A companies that are in the 8A portfolio.
I see.
So it's a much reduced world of who you're competing with.
And 8A is, when you mentioned minority is one is ethnic, right?
Yeah, it's ethnic. So what we're looking for, the actually federal regulations, they explicitly define the status of the 8A clients. They have to be socially and economically disadvantaged. So the social disadvantagement is defined in the regulations by a minority. So African American, Asian Pacific Islander, Hispanics, Native Americans, Alaskan, and Hawaiian natives are all considered the minority class that is allowed under the social disadvantagement. And then the economic disadvantagement is actually a net worth. So they have to meet a minimum net worth threshold. And that threshold, I will have to look up for you.
I see, okay. Not a problem.
Yeah.
What is the example of the contract under a 8A contractor?
Oh, our 8A contractors do so many different things. We have 8A contractors who are doing janitorial services for federal buildings, or military bases. We have federal contractors that are doing environmental remediation and cleanup. We have federal contractors that are participating on building projects, public works projects. We have federal